Welcome back, you guys. Want skim coating to be easier? Try skimming with these. All right, full disclaimer, I got these for free from Colombia because I'm a YouTuber. That's just the sort of thing that happens. There is plenty of other brands that you could try, and they're probably all gonna work really well. Read the comments. So leave a comment to let me know what brands you like, what are your experiences with them. This is the only ones I've tried. These things are great though. So we're gonna be skimming the walls. I'll probably try this big one because when it works, it's really nice and satisfying. But what I have found with the big one is if the wall is a little bit inconsistent, then it can be hard to smooth out some of the low spots. We're gonna be rolling the mud onto this wall with this roller. But if there's any dips or dives in the wall, what happens is it takes a lot of pressure to push on this blade, even though they're pretty flexible. So what happens is you get these low spots where you can still see the marks from the roller. And instead of just telling you about that, why don't we get started and give it a try? But my guess is I'll probably start with this and I may end up finishing with this, and we'll definitely be using this in the small spots. Anyways, got to get the mud thinned down. I like it pretty thin for this. So this is just all-purpose light. It's my preferred mud to use for almost everything. And it's still the mud that has a tiny bit of soap in it, although it's been thinned down by another half box of mud. But yeah, we're gonna thin it down just a little. There, are we thin enough? Yeah. Yeah, that's about the same as I would do for applying a skim coat by hand. You can see it's drooping a little bit, running a little bit, but not too much. So I did make a video reviewing these, but I definitely think that we could do a nice real-time video with this and you'll get a better idea how these work and why they might make your life easier. And it'll take a little bit for the roller to get properly saturated. So this is going over top of a hand applied coat of mud that I did a few days ago and sanded. But when you're doing this, you really want to get the mud on pretty thick. I don't have much up in that top corner yet. Try not to hit the casing because we don't want to do that. I just painted it for another video. Everything's a little disjointed. When you're trying to make videos about stuff, you don't always get to do it in the exact right order. This actually works well rolling sideways. Usually I roll up and down, but I'm trying not to stand in the way so that you guys can actually see it. And also, I won't be able to get in that corner anyways. One of the really nice things about rolling the mud on is it has this way of squishing the air out of the mud. So if you've ever tried to do a skim coat and you found yourself coming up against horrific bubbles that are in the mud, well, this really helps eliminate them. So even if you're not using those big fancy knives, I should say the big fancy skimming blades, even if you just do this and then use a 12-inch blade, you can get really good results. And in fact, just to demonstrate, let's actually do this part with the 12-inch blade. 12-inch knife in a pan or a hawk, doesn't matter. It's just to catch the mud. So I'm getting as close to that as I can without making a big mess. I can still smell the soap in this mud. All right, let's get the 12-inch knife first. Trowels will also work, but I just find that a knife works nicely too. It's a very user-friendly tool compared to a trowel, less learning curve. Okay, so we're just gonna grab a little bit and collect it and go right into that corner there. And you can go right to the bottom if you want. So I'll often do this. I just kind of smooth out the tricky spots first, like around this outlet. Ben, it'd be easier if you took out the outlet. Inside joke for the real subs. But now, so I like to do this first before I actually wipe the whole thing out. It just makes it a little smoother and nicer. Got this stuff on the wall right here from when I bumped it. Okay, here's where the magic starts to show. It's just so smooth. Of course, we got something in the mud. It always happens, especially when you're filming a video. So as I do each pass, I'm putting the pressure on my first pass. My pressure was this way. Second pass over here, it's this way. So that way we're leaving this line and we're not leaving big ugly lines in our finished work. I'm getting a little bit of bubbles and porosity. I could wipe a bit harder, and that'll get rid of most of them. I'm gonna just leave that, tune it up with a 6-inch. Okay, I mean, that's good enough. Very gently. Oh, left a little bit there. There we go. All right, that all looks good enough to leave now. So you can see, even if you're just gonna go the cheapest possible method, which is a roller, and a 12-inch knife, you will get great results. So let's step it up a little and start getting into these beautiful skimming blades. I'm gonna do half the wall. Now, the one downside to doing this method is it is messy. And as you do more of it, you will get a little bit less messy. I find usually, I mean, I went from the bottom up, but usually if I go top down, you're kind of chasing this blob of mud. That's what happens, is you end up kind of chasing this blob of mud down the wall. And once you get used to chasing it, you stop making such a mess. But that's the hard part at first, is because as soon as you put pressure on this thing, right there, see that? It's gonna drip, right? So I have to get at it right away. All right, let's do another one so you guys can really see it. But that's looking pretty good. And the more you roll it, the more it works into any bubbles and porosity that you already have on the wall. Nice mess on the floor. Definitely a good idea if you're in a finished space to have really good floor protection when you're doing this method. Okay, so right there, can you see it at the bottom of the roller? Yeah. It wants to just drip. Now there's not as much, but like if I went any slower, I would have had a huge splot. That's the technical term, at the bottom of the wall. So I could probably do the whole wall if we wanted to be really ambitious. But, so yeah, it's about speed right there if you really don't want to make big messes all the time. It's especially fun overhead when you get a huge one, it just lands right on you. That's the best. definitely some technique to doing this. It doesn't go on like paint. That's the hardest part at first, is just getting used to the fact that it's so different than rolling paint. It doesn't behave the same way. I'll often go over it again real quick, just to make sure we're not leaving any dry edges anywhere. You really want to try to get it as uniform as possible. I think maybe before, I think what we'll do is move the light so that you guys can really see the lines and lift-offs. A lot of the time when I'm doing this, you'll notice you can't get right into the corner without mucking up the other wall. Sometimes what I'll do is I won't even go into the corner. I'll stop right there, just wipe out the wall, and I'll come back when it's sort of half dry, and I'll just coat the corners. It works. Ah, it's so satisfying, just the texture. I love it. I think we should just leave it. You get that sort of 1950s basement look, you know? Look at that, look at that. Or maybe we could just do a light knockdown. Yeah, haven't we seen that in somebody's basement? Let's do the job that you came here to watch. Oh, you could skip the knockdown and just come back and sand it when it's dry too. Make sure that it's not too crusty. It was lightly washed the last time, not well washed. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay. So as soon as you do this, I mean, come on. Okay, see, there's some of what I was talking about. And you can put a bit of that extra mud right there. I'm a little rusty, you guys. I haven't done this for a bit. And if you want, you can then take that stuff and just kind of place it right there. Come back with the knife and tune that up. But let's just really quickly, one more pass. Oh, hitchhiker. Where is it? Somewhere in there, we have a little crusty. That's always annoying. So anticlimactic to having that nice perfect spread down the wall. These things are so nice to use, honestly. So I must have gotten a pretty flat first coat on this wall because it's going on pretty nice. I'm gonna just go with that. That looks good there. These blades have the perfect amount of flex in them. The perfect amount of flex in them that helps you feather and blend and all that nice stuff. And if I did this more often, I'm just a hand trowel kind of guy. I do that a lot, but if I did this more often, I could probably be doing it faster. All right, let's get into this corner real quick. And don't fuss too much. I can always touch that up in a bit. Will this fit? Nope. So let's go down with this guy. A couple more passes here. Okay, I'm not quite happy with this here yet. There we go. That's good enough. And here. Oh, I love these things. Honestly, that is so satisfying. You guys can see that? It is as flat and smooth as it looks. we've got that critical lighting. It would be showing anything if it was there. Now let's get the smaller one. Oh, sounds like the siding guys are working on the outside. You hear the nail guns in the background. Okay. Now we can tune up this area here. And, you know, you can just, I could either wait for this to be dry enough, which would be easier, but I just want it done. So I'm actually gonna start from down here. Start from down here. There we go, that looks great. Do this corner. I love these skimming blades. I honestly should use them more often. They would save my shoulder. They just look really good. Like, man, that is nice. Okay, I'm sold on these bigger ones. It wasn't so hard this time. I don't know what I was struggling with last time. I think the walls on the last job that I used these on were so uneven that I just wasn't able to get a nice spread like that. Okay, the filmer just brought up a good point. He was asking if it had a handle. So this thing makes it so that you can use it on a ceiling. So you can have somebody rolling out the ceiling ahead of you and then you come by, whoosh, works really good. I personally like the smaller one on ceilings because what I found was that, especially on a really uneven ceiling, having to push super hard with, I think that's a 32 inch, having to push really hard with that got super tiring and hard on me over a large ceiling. And I wasn't over time able to do a good enough job. Like I started leaving a lot more of those hollow spots where you could see the rollers. So I actually switched to the 18 on the ceiling. I think a 24 would be ideal, but in this kit, the Tomahawk kit that I got, it didn't have a 24. So I have 18 and then to 32, which is a bit of a jump. But beggars can't be choosers. All right. I should have worked my way up and gone down because if I get a big drop, it's going to drop down onto my nice finished surface. But again, that's one of those things that you don't think of when you're filming a YouTube video. And just go a little bit into your already finished work, not a lot. Like I go a few inches into my finished work. There's a big crusty that's going to cause me problems. Okay, I really try and make sure that there's actually enough coverage in those corners, especially because like you noticed how I had to use the blade to grab a little extra to fill in where I couldn't actually get to. So it's nice to even grab a little extra like I just did. I'm also going to show you something else. So if right here we can see it's very thin, up top it's very thick. So if you want to grab a little mud from up here, what you do is you push down. So are you focused in right up on the roller? Yeah. So if I push hard, I can drag the mud down. See that? Whoa, but I got to go quick because otherwise it'll drip. So now I'm able to even out that coat, right? I'm pushing, and then I'm releasing pressure right down at the bottom. So I've managed to take that extra mud and bring it down. So that's one of the things that you can do to make sure you're getting that nice, even spread of mud, because that's what will make you have to do less passes. So again, we can see it's way thicker up top. Way thicker, we've even got there. So I'm gonna push, drag some down, and then let go. I love this. I mean, when you're doing just one little wall like this, very enjoyable and satisfying. When you're doing a whole house or apartment, it's a lot of work, especially when it comes to the sanding. I mean, but let's be clear, there's a lot less sanding. Like the amount of sanding you have to do to make this look good is much lighter work than if you were, say, applying a skim coat with a 12-inch trowel. And I'm also able to leave a lot more material on the wall. So that's another thing that a lot of people don't think about. Bit too thin right here. What a lot of people don't think about is like, they think a skim coat needs to be like putting it on and scraping it off like your life depends on it. But in drywall, ideally, you want to leave a bit of a coat on there. You know, like a mil or 2 mils of mud, not like a 64th of mud. The reason is, when I come back to this and sand it, if there was any holes, imperfections, voids to fill, or maybe even any scratches after sanding, if I actually left a coat and not a microscopic film on the wall, an elbow, shoulder destroyingly thin coat of mud, then I have the opportunity to just sand that stuff out because I actually left some material on the wall. So that's another thing that a lot of people don't consider, and it took me a while to learn that. The reason that a lot of people will leave such a tight skim coat is because it's easier. It's more work, it's harder to actually leave some material on, because especially if you're applying it by hand, what you have to do is you have to basically like skim coat it super tight and then coat it again to get rid of all the bubbles. So that's one of the reasons that people skim it so tight, because they don't know that in order to get rid of that, you got to do that second coat. Okay, I mean, I may as well just do that spot right there because it's almost silly not to. It's an annoying little spot with the vault having to change directions. I almost need to get up on a bench to be able to do this. My buckets get so messy from this too. Like the lip of my buckets, it drives me crazy. I'm kind of a little bit OCD about trying to keep the buckets clean. Oh, I got mud on the casing. I almost should have just done this part above the window by hand. But hey, that's not what we're doing in this video. Yeah, one of the main things, just take your time getting that pretty even coat of mud. You know, go back to the bucket if you have to. Take it from the high spots and put it in the lows. Like, do what you gotta. Do what you gotta. So the filmer just asked why I'm not going all the way to the ceiling. And the reason is I've already painted the ceiling. So I'm going to use my tool to take it right to the ceiling, but not the roller, because otherwise I'll just mash it. So I'm trying to get as little mud on the ceiling as possible. Okay, take a look at the floor here. You can see what happens. It's almost like we've textured the floor. And you can see by looking at me that I'm slowly texturing my arms and head and face too. So it is messy. It's faster, it's easier, and it's better quality. How often do you get those things? Usually you have to sacrifice one of them. This is one of those rare times. Oh, you know what it isn't? It's not as cheap. So it costs a little more, but it's faster, easier, better finished product. So that's the trade-off, is that it costs a tiny bit more to initially invest in these. Okay, so like I said, we are now going to take it right up to the ceiling, as close as I can at least. I mean, honestly, I could wait for it to dry and just skim that little bit in and make less of a mess. If I didn't have a painted ceiling, it wouldn't be a problem. I'm sweating like crazy. It's warm out today. A little bit of drag where it joined up there, but not a big deal. I should have my bucket close to where I'm working. Silly of me. This ceiling is not straight enough for me to get right up top there. Bucket. One more pass right here. Okay. One more here. Got some porosity right here. Let's hope that fills in on the next one. Haha. Okay, we're leaving a line there, and we're gonna leave the line there. Yeah, I should definitely be using the small one now. Let's put a little of that extra material right there. Be hard to get up there, so there we go. All right, back to this one. Okay, got a little extra that I need to get into this corner. That's close enough. Looks good for my house. Okay, finished passes. It needs a little more work up here. And we'll bring it right down to that casing. All right, good enough. We'll tune that up with the 6-inch. I love this. These things are seriously, when they work, when it's working out, it's so satisfying. The only reasons it wouldn't be working is either, again, the walls are just not flat enough, or you suck at it. User error. That's why. Let's be blunt. I feel like I've been frosting a giant flat cake. All right. We're in 6-inch knife territory now. Okay. Quick little tune up right there. Right there. And how about here? This could use just a little bit of porosity. Beautiful. Mud on the ceiling. It's okay. This needs a bit too. Nope. Not 100% flat up there. All right here. This has been dying for a little extra work. That's not nice. Just needs a bit of extra mud. The nice thing about leaving such a nice skim coat, oh, I'm getting paint in there, is like it gets dry enough pretty quick that you can like tune it up and work on stuff. It's definitely not dry, but it's better. And we're about to be able to do one of those nothing to see here clips. I love those. The clip at the end of the video when I show a freshly skimmed wall. And there's nothing to see. All right, that top is not flattening out how I want it to. I'm just gonna leave it. Sanding will take care of that. A little bit of bubbles right here. I should just fix that after, but I think we got it. A little bit of porosity right here. I think if I start from right here, I can kind of work my way into it. Better, porosity right here. Moving start. That can sand out. That's what I'm talking about leaving that little bit of fat on the wall so that you can like mess around with it if you have to. There. That is 100% ready to be sanded and painted after it's dry. So, there you go. Oh, no, we missed a spot. So close. There. Now it is. Now it is. All right, you guys. That was, that's the easy way to skim a wall with drywall mud. Let's be clear about that. Plaster guys are saying, why don't you just plaster it? We don't have plaster here. Not easy to get. Don't know how to use it. That's why we do mud and sanding. Anyways, guys, yeah, again, that is the easy way to do a nice skim job. Thanks for watching. I hope projects are going well, but I hope you're doing even better. Till the next one, you guys.